Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for September 8th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. Kind of dragging a little bit today, still recovering from that game on Thursday night, but that's okay. We had a big weekend in Philly sports, so let's get right into it. Every Monday, we rewind the weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. They are with it, though, too. Lots of big stories, including Phillies Karen. Of course, Philly Goat has you covered with Phillies Karen. If you did not see this or notice this, on Friday night, Harrison Bader hit a home run. Guy ran over, grabbed it, gave it to his son, who was his birthday, and the typical, stereotypical looking Karen came over and said, "That was my ball. That was in my section." And the guy, rather than starting a fight, gave her the ball. Worked out well because then the Marlins took care of him, and then the Phillies brought him down. Kid got a signed bat from Harrison Bader, got to meet him. But it was absolutely ridiculous to whatever. Like I said, it's a Karen. It is what it is, but absolutely ridiculous. Now, one thing I will say, I know on Twitter and everything, everybody's like, she should lose her job. She should. And let's pump the brakes a little bit. Yes, it wasn't a good look. Yes, it was a douchey move. But she doesn't need to lose her job for that. Come on now, guys. That's a little bit over the top. There are some things that people do on the internet where you need to track them down, and they probably should lose their jobs for. However, this situation, taking a baseball, no, come on. Like, that's over the line. That's just absolutely ridiculous to even float that idea out there. But Phils did win 9-3 on Friday. Solid win for them. Like I said, Bader went deep. He and Marsh are definitely looking a little bit like they're just having fun. I like the way they play off each other. And truthfully, Harrison Bader being back has given this team a little bit of swag. Saturday, 4-2, Christopher Sanchez came in, stepped up, and pitched ace-like. Bryce Harper hit a 2-run homer, and it was what they need. The bullpen was solid. Sanchez pitched on Friday night. Luzardo came in and stepped up and pitched solidly on Saturday. Had them mixed up here in my notes. But the bullpen was solid throughout the entire weekend. And then yesterday, 5-4 loss. Taiwan got in a little bit of trouble in the first inning. Credit the Phillies, who did battle back. But the big story yesterday was Trey Turner going out with what appears to be a hamstring strain. He's going to get an MRI on it today, and we'll see. But it sounds as though it's not the same hamstring he was out with last year. But he did miss 6 weeks, and it took him a while to get back into shape. So this was not a good loss for him. I think it kind of overshadows what was a successful weekend where they took 2 out of 3 from the Marlins. They've increased the lead in the NL East back to 8. But right now we have the cloud that is Trey Turner's hamstring kind of hanging over us. So we'll see what happens, but we cannot feel sorry for ourselves. I did this a couple weeks ago, and it blew up spectacularly in my face. So let's do it again. Exactly the same situation, only 2 weeks later, so there's less games. But you have a 7-game lead coming into a 4-game series against your arch rival. The magic number stands at 13. And I'm pretty sure when you play head-to-head, that magic number goes down too, because the magic number is a combination of wins by the Phillies and losses by the Mets. So if they can win 2 out of 3, they can chip away, 6 games, or 3 out of 4. So they can chip away 6 games from this magic number, essentially cut it in half. So this is a huge series with or without Trey Turner. So Phillies, I'm calling it out again. You need to step up. You can end this thing now. You can start getting your bullpen where it needs to be. You can get your starting rotation where it needs to be. You can essentially end anything for the Mets. You need to take 3 out of 4 from this Mets team this week. Nola, you need to not have your Nola Little League blow up inning tonight. I need to set the tone early in this game. I need you to be solid. I need you to not be what you've been all season. And then we got Ranger, Christopher Sanchez, and still to be determined. I fully believe that's probably going to be Luzardo because I just read in the paper today, it still seems as though Walker Buehler is set to start on Saturday, or I guess Friday the 12th. And it was okay, I guess, in his AAA start, but the way the pitching staff lines up, Nola, you set the tone here, because then you got Ranger, Suarez, and likely Luzardo. And the way Luzardo has been pitching, we got a shot for possibly a sweep. But if you come out and play bad tonight and lose this game, all of a sudden you're letting the Mets back into it, and it starts to get a little dicey with what's in your head and things like that. But Phillies, I need you to go out tonight, end this thing. Start this week, end it. Put all hope that the Mets had to win the division to bed, and then we can deal with setting up the staff, getting guys some rest, at-bats, whatever you need to do, but you can cut this magic number in half. Go out there and play like you know you can. We've already lost Zach Wheeler. Trey Turner is out, I would imagine, at least for this series. Next man up mentality, and Mundo, everybody says you could be a starter. Well, now is your chance. Go out there, get hot, and let's end this thing tonight. But overall, a solid weekend for the Phillies, minus the whole Trey Turner thing. But that does lead to today's question of the day. How many wins do the Phillies need this week against the Mets? I would say minimally a sweep, but I think from a psyche standpoint, I think from where they are in the standings, where they have their lead against the Dodgers, chasing the Brewers for the 1 seed, they need to take 3 of 4. That's I don't think anything less than that is successful, because you still, obviously 2 out of 4 from a standings perspective would be okay. But you take 2 out of 4 and you split with them. It's like, all right, are they still in our head? Are they our kryptonite? So go out there this week and take 3 out of 4. But let me know how many you think they need. 674958531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest. Lots to talk about here on a Monday. The Eagles did make a move as well as they prepared to take on the Chiefs this week. They added Zadarius Smith, was most recently with the Lions, defensive end, edge rusher. I feel like this is a low risk, high reward. He's a little bit on the older side, but we'll see. Not necessarily the move I would have expected them to make, unless they feel Jacorian Bennett is the answer at cornerback 2. I felt, based on the way that game played out the other day, that was the bigger concern. Adoree Jackson just was not the guy, but we'll see. And I haven't heard anything, but I would, if it was me anyway, I would start Jacorian Bennett, at least to see what they have. There are some possible names out there on the free agent or trade wire, but I'll get into that this week on the Brotherly Birds breakdown, dropping on, depends on the timing of it. Might drop on Thursday this week, might be Friday, but minimally Friday. We're recording a day early just because of my son's birthday on Thursday. But I'll talk about the Eagles cornerback 2, among other things, on the Brotherly Birds breakdown, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, okay. I mean, Zadarius Smith does not like wow me. I do think with the way that game played out, with Jalen Carter being ejected, that played a huge role in some of the secondary issues. So, like I said, I'd say put in Ja'Cory Bennett. I mean, anything we can get out of Zadarius Smith is great, but I'm not looking for him to come in and make a Pro Bowl or anything like that. It'd be nice if he did. All right, for kind of putting a bow on last week. Question of the day recap. I said, who was the GOAT of the game? 83% of you said it was Jalen Hurts, and I agree. I totally think that he played a good game. Didn't need the pretty stats, didn't need to be the beautiful masterpiece that's going to hang in the art museum. But a win is a win. And if you look at some of the other teams around the NFL this week, minus last night's game, nobody really stuck out. Like Joe Burrow didn't really stick out as like, oh, look at that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers probably, again, taking away last night's game, which was just an absolute crazy whatever game. But like Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields were like the top quarterbacks. Now, are Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields going to be the top quarterbacks all year in the NFL? No. So it's week one. Jalen did what he had to do, did enough, and that is why he was last week's GOAT of the game. I did mention it is a Super Bowl rematch. Eagles, as of yesterday, looked like they opened up. At one point, the Chiefs were favored in this game by 1.5 points, but I guess after Friday's performance, the Eagles are actually 1.5 point favorites opening up yesterday for this game. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think the Chiefs are the Chiefs as they were, but I'm sure there's some revenge and payback on their mind. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, but we'll get you ready, all geared up for the game. Brotherly Birds breakdown later this week, Thursday or Friday. Likely will be Friday at midnight. That way, on your way to work on Friday, you have something to listen to. But the best way to stay in the loop when it does drop is go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Jimbo_Mott. Hit me up on any of my socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm on TikTok and Twitter at Jimbo_Mott. Twitter at Philly, or Instagram at Philly Jimbo. On Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, but that's the best way to stay in the loop. And then spread the word. Let people know. All right. Temple Owls played against the Howard Bison on Saturday. 55-7 win. Lots of playing time for everyone involved. Overall, a solid performance by the Owls. Great defense, great running. Big test coming up on Saturday. I think this will be a good glimpse onto where this team is and whether it's just beating up on Howard and UMass or whether Casey Keeler definitely has the culture changing. But Oklahoma comes in on Saturday. I wasn't terribly impressed with Oklahoma on Saturday against my Wolverines. I don't know if it's a combination. Michigan's still trying to struggle getting used to the new quarterback or what. But like I said, big test, great opportunity for the Owls to show whether or not, or just where they are in the hierarchy and the pecking order of the better teams. So Oklahoma, Temple at the Link on Saturday. And then Villanova opened their season with a 24-17 win over Colgate. It was their 17th straight home win. Got a tough one coming up next week as they go to Happy Valley to take on number 2 Penn State. But a good weekend for our Philly college football teams. And then what happened this weekend in Philly sports history? September 6th, first game for the Eagles back in 1992 without Jerome Brown. Randall Cunningham also returned as the Eagles starter after tearing his ACL the year before. He threw 2 touchdown passes, one to Herschel Walker, one to Fred Barnett, but was sacked 6 times. But the Eagles defense stepped up, held the Saints to 202 total yards of offense, and a 15-13 win for the Birds. They would meet again later that season in the wild card with the Eagles, with the Saints, with the Eagles winning, I should say. And it was a much higher scoring game on that time. And then on September 7th, back in 1986, Buddy Ryan made his coaching debut with the Eagles in a 41-14 loss to Washington. We all know it would get better for Buddy and the Birds. And then in 2014, Eagles opened up with a 34-17 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars in a game in which they fell behind 17-0 at the half. Nick Foles, though, helped lead the comeback, threw for 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, did turn the ball over 3 times. But I remember being in the stands being like, what is happening? How is Jacksonville up 17-0 at halftime? And then Nick Foles gave us a glimpse of what he would do a few years later for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. But that is what happened this weekend in Philly sports. Overall, a solid weekend. Like I said, the Trey Turner thing is sort of the dark cloud hanging over the weekend right now. Hopefully we get some good news with the MRI today and rest him for a week or two, and he should be good. The Union did not play this weekend. They are back at it next weekend, where they have a stretch of 3 games in 7 days, 2 MLS games, as well as a showdown with Nashville in the U.S. Open Cup semifinals. But that was Rewind the Weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Be sure to check out Philly Goat. All kinds of new shirts, including the Philly Karen. And if you're an old school baseball card collector, you'll like this shirt because it's the 87 Topps baseball card with the wooden border. One of my favorite baseball cards of all time. But go there, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, take 10% off of your order. All right, I mentioned my socials, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, Instagram at Philly Jimbo. But today is a big day, housekeeping-wise, for this podcast. It was 3 years ago today that the first ever This Day in Philly sports history was posted. And on that day, I talked about the 2002 Eagles. It was opening day for the NFL. It was a Thursday night. I believe it was Buffalo and Kansas City opened up the season that year. But I went back to 2002, and on that day, the Eagles led 24-10 at halftime against the Tennessee Titans, only to be shut out in the second half and lose that game 27-24. Donovan McNabb threw 3 touchdowns to James Thrash, Deuce Staley, and Chad Lewis, but was sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions and fumbled the ball once. But that is what happened on this day in 2002, and that was the singular event. I don't know why that one came into my head. It was kind of something I was toying around with for this day in Philly sports history for a while. For those of you who are OGs, you remember I had Back to the Future, which was more of like a what-if style, similar to the Fridays with AI, similar to What If Wednesdays, Throwback Thursdays, kind of took that and broke it up into the segments you know and see today. But on a whim, I'm like, you know what? There might be something here. The first post, I think, was under 3 minutes. Talked about it. I remember coming on, wishing everybody a Happy New Year for those that celebrate. But a lot has gone down in 3 years. And it's been an amazing 3 years. The podcast, as you see it today, that first post back in 2022 was not even close to what we see. It's been a fairly decent ride in Philly sports. We've been to 2 Super Bowls. We've been to a World Series. We won a Super Bowl. You have the Sixers and the Flyers. We'll leave it at that. But it's just amazing that 3 years ago today is when this all started. I couldn't have done it without you guys out there listening. To, like I said, from a 2-3 minute little, hey, this is what happened, no commentary, no nothing. It sort of has morphed into what it is today. It's taken over. Back to the Future was the original podcast, and all of the elements from Back to the Future still are sprinkled in here. But I just want to say thank you for listening for 3 years. I'm excited to see what the next 3 years bring. I was able to spawn off now the Brotherly Birds breakdown, which I'm very excited about. There were some minor tech issues on my end, which is ridiculous because this is what I do every day. But overall, I'm excited for that, and just the opportunities, the people I've met. I'm involved with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Remember from earlier this spring, we sat down and talked with Lenny Wagner. I went on Friday for it was off, but I went to the Delaware County Sports Legend Museum, which is in the Radnor Township building. Talked with Jim, who is the curator of that. It was part for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, part for my own enjoyment. Just all the people I've been able to meet and just interact with. Thank you. I appreciate it. If it wasn't for you, I'd just be some guy talking to my computer every day for the hell of it. But 3 years, happy 3-year anniversary to me. Happy 3-year anniversary to you. I know there's still a lot of OGs out there who've been here from the beginning. I thank you for that. I'm looking forward, like I said, to see what the next 3 years bring and continue to grow this thing as who knows? I firmly believe, and I think that's the big thing. Everybody's like, well, why do you do this every day? Because I believe in it. I feel like it's a good alternative to some of the stuff you hear on whether it's 97.5 or WIP. It gives you like the educational thing, which is near and dear to my heart. I'm an educator at heart. But to me, like, sometimes it's fun to just go back and relive. Because on that 2002 Eagles game against the Titans, I can tell you exactly where I was sitting, exactly what I was doing. It was in the winner's circle in Exton, which isn't even there anymore, with my normal, every away game. I went out with my cousin and a group of friends from back home, and we would sit there and watch games all day. And I can tell you, like, just it was a great way to start the season. We were excited. We thought the Eagles had so much potential. And then we were cursing out Andy Reid for not making adjustments at halftime. We were cursing out Donovan McNabb for throwing 3 touchdown interceptions and fumbles. So I think there's value in that. It's fun to kind of reminisce and see where we were. So 3 years, thank you. I feel like I've rambled on enough. So let's get into it. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, a growing community of diehard fans turning their sports passion into something special. Whether you're looking for unique shows, want to launch your own podcast but don't have the time, or need production services, the ClashingConferences.com has everything you need. Explore fan-driven content, become a member, or tap into their media services to level up your brand. That's ClashingConferences.com, where fans' voices get heard. All right, so what else happened on September 8th? We know the Eagles back in 2002 lost to the Titans 27-24, a 14-point halftime lead. But if we go back to 1998, Phillies beat the Mets 16-4 at the Vet. Of course, I'm going to throw a Mets nugget in there on the biggest series of the season so far. But Rico Brogna, Kevin Sefsik, I can never say his name. If you remember when we talked about this last year, Kevin Sefsik and Bobby Estalella each hit 2 home runs. Marlon Anderson added a home run in his first major league at bat, as the Phillies set a team record for home runs in a game with 7. Since then, they've tied that 3 times in 2018, 2021, and then again this year, the day that Kyle Schwarber hit his 4 home runs. But on this day, Phillies beat the Mets 16-4. Rico Brogna, Kevin Sefsik, and Bobby Estalella each hit 2 home runs. Marlon Anderson added another. And let's go. We need one of those 16-4 games today, especially with Aaron Nola on the mound. All right, and then go to 2003. This is another one I remember very well. I can tell you exactly where I was doing and what I was saying. But Eagles opened up the season at the Link against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, losing 17-0. It was the first regular season game at the Link. Everybody came in hyped up. You had Rocky up there on the perch wearing an Eagles jersey. Everybody, I remember they shut the lights down. They had a laser show. All the bells and whistles you'd expect from a new stadium. But it was Joe Jurevicius continuing to torment the Eagles. He had 4 catches, but 2 of them were for touchdowns. I think he only had like 30-some yards, 40-some yards. But the Eagles they turned the ball over 2 times. Donovan was sacked 3 times. Couldn't get anything going offensively. Defense wasn't too bad. I guess if you're giving up 17 points, you kind of expect your offense to score something. But that was a rough start to the season. They would go 0-2, losing both games at the Link. Luckily, they had a bye, and then they came out of the bye and went 12-2 down the stretch en route to yet another NFC Championship game. But that does lead to today's trivia question. On this day in 1987, Juan Samuel set the Phillies record for leadoff home runs with 7. Who are the top 3 in career leadoff home runs for the Phillies? 3-1. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Discord channel is live. First link in the description. Any of my social media. But who are the top 3 Phillies in career leadoff home runs in honor of Juan Samuel setting the record on this day back in 1987? And then finally today, our underrated and underappreciated at Philadelphia sports athletes. Today we're going to take a look at Aaron McKie. Aaron McKie was a public league champion at Gratz in 1991. He played on the same team with Rasheed Wallace. Then went to Temple, where he averaged almost 18 points per game for his career. He's a Big 5 Hall of Famer. He was the 93 A-10 Player of the Year, where that Temple team went on a run to the Elite 8 before losing to the Fab 5 from Michigan. He's the number 10 scorer in Temple history. He's in their Hall of Fame as well. Number 17 pick in the draft in 94 to the Portland Trailblazers. Of course, though, he came back home, played for the Sixers on that 2000-2001 season. Huge contributor for that team, won 6th Man of the Year. But like I said, he was a big piece, kind of often overlooked. Everybody talks about AI, obviously. They talk about Mutombo. Usually comes up to like Eric Snow's one of the next guys like George Lynch, Tyrone Hill, like the scrappy guys that did those things. But Aaron McKie could come in, run the point if you need it. He can knock down a big shot if you need it. Could play some defense if needed. And I always feel like he's often overlooked on that 2000-2001 team. Would go on to be an assistant coach with the Sixers as well as the Temple Owls. Would become the head coach of the Temple Owls before stepping away a few years ago. But Aaron McKie, public league champion, one of the greatest to ever do it from the city of Philadelphia, is today's underrated and underappreciated Philadelphia athlete. On this day in 2003, Eagles opened the Link with a 17-0 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A year earlier, they blew a 14-point lead down in Tennessee, losing to the Titans 27-24. And then in 1998, Phillies beat the Mets 16-4, setting a team record with 7 team home runs. Not 17, 7 team home runs. A record that's been tied 3 times since then. Thank you again for an amazing 3 years. Looking forward to the next 3 years and what's in store for that. We'll have an update on Trey's knee or a hamstring as soon as we know. We'll also keep you posted as the Eagles get ready for a huge Super Bowl rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. And Phillies Mets, huge tonight. I think you set the tone early tonight. Nola, come on, man. Eat your Wheaties, whatever you got to do. Come out here. Don't give up 5 runs in the first inning. Don't be that guy. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 8th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Thank you so much again for 3 great years. Looking forward to it. I truly, truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.